Hola, Haribol, as it is said in the Vaishnava religion. Today, I want to talk on chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita. I've just been reading it, and oh the wisdom, oh the wisdom. I describe myself as someone who tries to follow Jesus and gets inspiration from the Vaishnava tradition, part of the Hindu tradition of India. So the Bhagavad Gita is their main holy book, and chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita is really deep and really meaningful, I believe. So one of the big discussions in Hinduism, and it should be in all spiritualities or religions that talk about God, is God a person, a personality, or is God just an impersonal, energetic force that is responsible for the creation? And the Vaishnavas, those who worship Krishna, they're fairly adamant that God ultimately, and the ultimate and the be-all and end-all, is the personality of God. And the energy, the impersonal energy, actually comes from the personal God. They call God Krishna, but God has millions of names, millions of pastimes. So, let's not try to put a box on God. But chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Krishna speaking, at the beginning, Arjuna, his disciple, or friend and disciple, asks him, this question about the impersonal and the personal. And Krishna says that those who follow the path to the impersonal God, to the energy of God, will find liberation, and we'll find liberation. We'll find God. But, and it's a huge but, he says that scarcely there is a man. Actually, I'll read it out. I've got it here. The viewless path, or that viewless path, shall scarce be trod by man bearing the flesh. So it's something which is hardly ever trodden by those who bear the flesh, because it's so hard and possibly even dangerous as well. So then Krishna goes on to say, here I go, I've lost it, that the way to go for those who are seeking God is to renounce, well, I'll read it out. But whosoever, this is written in interesting English, whoever renounces self for me, full of me, fixed, have to turn the page, fixed to serve only the highest night and day, musing on me, him I will swiftly lift from life's ocean of distress and death, whose soul clings fast to me. Cling thou to me, clasp me with heart and mind, so shalt thou dwell surely with me on high. And then it goes on top of that, it goes on to actually say, if you can't do that, there are other things you can do. So it's not like a be-all and end-all. If you can't go to the highest, which is cling to God, think of nothing of God, do everything for God, there are other things you can do which will help your spiritual progress, which is a good antidote to these religionists and spiritualities that say that, it's all or nothing, heaven or hell, If God is compassionate, which Jesus says he is, then this makes more sense that, for those of us who can't do the highest or attain the highest, there are other ways things we can do to put us on the path to God. So, there's two really important points there straight away, is that one, let us not worry about whether God is an impersonal energy ultimately, or is a personality ultimately. But let us realize that the path to the unmanifest, to the impersonal, is really scarcely tried. It's fraught with danger. It's fraught with difficulty. That Krishna is saying here that we shouldn't really go down that path, but be devoted to God, to Krishna. If you've got a problem with Krishna, that's fine. This is just the name of God in the Hindu tradition, in this particular Hindu tradition. The ultimate, the big God. God has many names. God has many pastimes. God has got so many things God has done, and let's not put God into a box. But for me personally, I'm happy, to call God Krishna. That's fine by me, and But if that's not fine by you, then Jehovah, Allah, Yahweh. Most cultures on the planet have had a name for God, for the Creator. So don't let that be an issue. And finally, in chapter 12, the thing I'd like to talk about is, which is also in chapter 6, but the point I want to make on this is that when I was in Brisbane, I was part of a church group, and the man who ran that, Dave Andrews, who's, had a great heart for Jesus, and he said the one thing that makes Jesus and or Christianity be Christianity, but let's go Jesus, because Christianity hasn't done a good job of practicing what Jesus teaches. The one thing that separates it from every other religion is Jesus says to love your enemies. But here in chapter 12 and in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, and probably in more places because I'm not much of a scholar, a saintly person or a godly person is described, and one of the symptoms is that one treats friends and enemies exactly the same. And how does one treat them? Well, in chapter 6, it's actually loving each alike. So here we have Bhagavad Gita actually saying, no, love God. Love your enemy, sorry. And in chapter 12, previous to saying treat them alike, it's saying God is compassionate. So, and we should be compassionate. Therefore, we should treat, if we're going to treat, friend and foe alike, then we treat them with compassion. So be compassionate to your enemies. It's not just Jesus. But that's my little talk on chapter 12 of the Bhagavad Gita.